Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you all the members, all the patrons. Make sure to subscribe. We are trying to hit 50,000 subscribers until the end of the year. And let's get going, guys. So today we have another tier list, and we are going to talk about all the rank 8 aircraft that we have in game after the Sky Guardians update. Of course, we have the addition of many new aircraft. And with the addition of the bigger maps, some of the meta changed a little bit. Of course, remember, I will consider the whole picture of the aircraft. It's obvious that a MiG-23 MLA is better than a MiG-29. It's worse than a MiG-29, for example. But I will consider the battle rating of the aircraft, the weapon systems, how easy it is to use the aircraft, overall performance of it in its own BR against its own enemies. If it faces a lot of up tiers, down tiers, I will consider the whole aircraft to be materialistic about it, because we need to see reality and actually respond to it. It doesn't matter if a certain aircraft is better than the other. If it has a bad BR, for example, it will be problematic to fly. So you might see some weird things going around here, because, for example, the Marineflieger Tornado is way better than the Asta, even though it's the same aircraft. Why? Because it has a way lower BR, so it's way easier to fly the aircraft, even though it is the same aircraft, So just consider that before judging my choices. And also, let's talk about the tiers. We are going to have the top dogs, the aircraft that are actually the main aircraft of their BR, aircraft that are so easy to fly. If you learn a couple of things, you can beat basically anything and do aces with it. Great, but it would be amazing aircraft, but they lack in something, at least one thing. We are going to talk about them. Not great, not terrible, not great, not terrible. It's alright aircraft that you can fly if you fly it correctly, but it is not the greatest thing ever as well. It's hard to fly normally, but you can do a lot of things. Only good at one thing are aircraft they're only good at one thing. So they basically do ground attacking or interception or something like that they do well, but everything else is the aircraft is really hard to fly. And then the complete suffering is the aircraft that it is just hard to actually fly, and yeah, it's problematic, right? So we are going to start with the order as well that we have in the game. So the US, Germany, USSR, Great Britain, Japan, China, Italy. I'm talking about the Chinese Tech 3, okay? Lower your pitches and forks to come down. France, Swedish, and Israel. So the order that we have in game. So let's start, as always, with the US. And you will be kind of surprised here. The Block 10 F-16 is still an amazing aircraft, but I think for air battles, it is alright. I don't think it's the most amazing thing ever, but it is good at ground attacking, and it is an amazing aircraft at dogfighting. So I will put it on great, but because it can do the ground pounding as well as do very good dogfights. It just doesn't have a very good radar, to be honest, for top tier. And it doesn't have any type of, BVR. So is it bad? No, great, but it means that the aircraft is amazing. But you can do aces with it, and it's just really, really good. But the thing is, without BVR, you are lacking a little bit on a head-on anyway, even if you don't want to do BVR. Even if you fly low, if a target fires a BVR missile at you, it's not the same as firing 9L from a head-on, So, yeah. That's the idea. Then we go for the F-16 Block 15, or the ADF for the Americans. I would also put here, and I know it's kind of problematic. It is one of the top dogs, right? But I think right now, with the addition of the new maps or the bigger maps, I think its performance was kind of tuned down a little bit. It's an aircraft that the radar is kind of blind in these maps. You only see targets when they are like at 40, 50 kilometers, while the other ones see like from the get-go almost. So yeah, it's kind of lacking. He only has 2 BVR missiles, which is fine if the BVR missiles were good, but the Sparrows at longer ranges, they're limited, and you don't have the ground attack capabilities, you know. So it is an aircraft that it's amazing, but I mean, you can do very well with it. But if you face a MiG-29, you are in a disadvantage, especially flying high, but also in a dogfight. After the update on the flight model, I felt, I don't know what people were smoking, that they say that the flight model of the F-16 is buffed. It is not buffed. Not in my opinion, it is nerfed, while the MiG-29 is buffed. So I do think that it kind of is lacking a little bit, and I do think that we need, not that we need right now, and especially not for the US, but for some other nations like Israel and stuff, we're going to talk about it later, we could see an F-16C coming very soon, I think, because MiG-29 is more of a counter, not a counter, but quote-unquote a counter to that instead of these A's, and especially because the Sparrows, you don't have a data link or INS system on the missile, so if you lose a lock, it's basically GG, and the radar is kind of bad on the range, so it is just problematic. You know, I think it's a very good aircraft and you need to fly it correctly, but there are better things in the game. Then we go for the F-14. The F-14, I wanted to add it here, but I will put it in the top dogs. Not that it's better than the F-16, I still think that the F-16 is better at its BR, but the thing is, it's just an easier aircraft to fly overall, the F-16. I would advise you guys to actually research the F-16 first. But the F-14, man, it has the range, you know, it has an amazing radar. It is problematic when notching, but still it is a very good radar. The Phoenixes can get a lot of kills from further away. You have INS and a Fox 3 missile, so it's amazing. It has its problems as well. It's not perfect, but if you do it correctly, especially with its BR, sometimes you can get some down tiers. It's difficult, but you can get it. So it is overall a better machine for just about everything. It can do some ground striking that this cannot. It can do BVR that this cannot. And it do BVR even better than the EDF. So I just think it's the better aircraft for now. It is a more complete aircraft, if you will, right? Then we go for Germany. So Germany is a funny one because you have two Tornadoes. I think the Tornado IDS Marineflieger is not great, not terrible. It is not an amazing aircraft. You basically can only bomb with it. The anti-ship missiles are kind of useless right now. The radar was updated. Now we can actually lock some pillboxes and stuff, some big targets. But still, it's kind of limited. You have only 2 A9s. You don't have a lot of flares and chaff. But it is 10.7. So the aircraft that you are facing, yeah, it's very easy to get kills with it. But it is like a secondary aircraft, even at that BR. So yeah, it's one of those, right? And then we have the Tornado Asta, which it is only good at one thing, which is basically bombing. Everything else is a bad aircraft. Obviously, it's made for that. But at the current state of things, if they don't fix the maps or make it so that everything is more spread out, it is only good at destroying bases very quickly and basically dying afterwards. So if they change the maps, this thing will be way better in RRB. But right now, it's kind of difficult. And also, even in ground battles, I mean, it's alright, I guess, deploying laser-guided bombs, but laser-guided bombs are problematic as well, because you need to maintain the lock on it, and also we have some very good AA systems, even though they are being kind of nerfed, some of them. Some of the systems, they are pretty amazing to destroy you, so it's not the greatest thing ever, you know? So, yeah. Then we go for the fighters of the East Germans. So we have the MiG-23 MLA. I think it's an aircraft that it is not great, not terrible. I mean, for my personal use, it's great, but it is a complex aircraft. It has the wings that you need to learn if you want to defeat stuff in a dogfight. The missiles are amazing. The R-24s are really good, but they're not the greatest thing ever anymore. You know, you have Sparrow M's and F's, and you have the R-27s of the MiG-29s. So it is lacking a little bit on the BVR. The radar is a complex one, and it has a lot of limitations as well, because it's not a full pull-stopper radar. So it has its limitations, but it is an amazing aircraft. You just have to, it has a steep learning curve. Once you get it, the way that you fly it, then it's great. But for normal players that are just passing around this aircraft to get the MiG-29, it is a difficult one. So it's not great, not terrible. It's good, but it's not amazing. It's still kind of, right now, it's lacking a little bit. The thing is that the BR makes it so that it's a lot better than it should, actually. If it gets its proper BR of 11.7 maybe or something like that, it would be facing aircraft from its time, so F-16s and MiG-29s and F-14s. But right now it's facing a lot of down tiers, so that helps a lot. But still, even though you can get aces and stuff, it is a difficult aircraft. So I would put it right here. And then we go for the German MiG-29. I have to put it in the top dogs, right? It is one of the best aircraft in the game, technically the best MiG-29 in game, and it is just amazing, 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 amazing. It really is probably my favorite aircraft of the game. It is, right? I mean, it's my favorite aircraft of all time. So the MiG-29s, both of them are just amazing. They do well BVR, they do well dogfights, they do well thrust to weight, climb, acceleration, max speed, fuel. It's pretty alright. I never use the external fuel tank. With the max fuel in a normal bed, you can deal with the targets pretty well. The only minor problem that he has is the ability to only carry 2 radar-guided missiles. But to be honest, there is only F4s that can carry more, or the F-14. Basically, everything else carries, or the Tornado F-3 right now, but everything else basically carries the same amount of missiles. The Yak-41 is another example, but it is an aircraft that has the best missile in the game radar-wise, so the ER, it can beat even the Phoenix in acceleration and get to the target quickly. I tested this firing from 60 kilometers, and yeah, the missile just gets there first, and the Phoenix just explodes in the air because of lack of energy and battery life. So yeah, it's the best BVR machine in the game, I think. One of the best, not the best, but one of the best. In the dogfight is amazing, helmet-mounted sight, cannon is amazing, R60Ms are pretty good. I feel like they are ignoring flares more than the M9Ls in certain situations, so it is an amazing, I love it. It's just the perfect aircraft in the game right now. So yeah, then we go for the Soviets. The Soviets have a pretty good lineup. So MiG-27K, I think it depends on what you are saying and looking at. But I would say that it is a great, but it doesn't have any type of BVR up weaponry, obviously. But for its purpose, it's one of the best in the game, if not the best. It has TV-guided stuff, laser-guided stuff. Air-to-ground is amazing in this aircraft. Yes, you don't have thermals, but you kind of don't need it. It's an amazing aircraft. It really is. You have the R60Ms to basically protect yourself. You don't have the radar on the nose, so it tends to turn more than the other MiG-23s. Not really though, because the fuselage is the fuselage of the M, but still, it is an amazing aircraft, especially for air-to-ground, one of the best ground attackers in the game. So I don't have much else to say. It is just a sniper of tanks, so yeah, very good. Then we go for the MiG-23 MLD. The MLD is one of those that I'm kind of divided. Same goes for the MLA. It is an amazing aircraft that has an amazing missile, amazing dogfighting capabilities, but it has a learning curve. So the radar is problematic. It does turn a little bit more than the MLA, but everything else is basically the same. It is just problematic to learn the radar, especially to use the missiles. Dogfights, you can beat almost anything, but you will lose for most of the 4th generation, I think, every single time. Maybe the F-14 you can beat it, but everything else you will lose. So it is an amazing aircraft. I love it so much. For me personally, both of these are here, okay? But you do need to learn how to use them. So they can be a little bit problematic for the average player. So that's why I would put it on not great, not terrible. Just because of that. But they are great, Then, obviously, I don't have much to say. MiG-29, I forgot to delete these. It's not an A, there is no A, but MiG-29, 913. The Soviet one, basically the same aircraft as the 912A for the Germans, has a little bit more fuel. In real life, it had the ECM as well, that we don't have in game. The fuel helps a little bit, but everything else is basically the same. It has a 0.6 seconds of being slower in a turn at 360. So it is basically the same aircraft. It doesn't change anything. One of the best BVR, one of the best in dogfights, thrust to weight, everything else that the 912 has, the 913 has. Amazing aircraft. These two are my favorite in the game, and they're just amazing, amazing, amazing. Then we go for the pinnacle of the BVR machine of the Soviets. I have to put it in the top dogs as well. Yes, without the VTOL, the Yak-41 can be problematic on a turn. You will lose for most of the aircraft without the VTOL. With the VTOL, you can help a little bit, especially because you can just slow it down, the aircraft, a little bit more while maintaining, this lift. So yeah, there is that. The radar is the Zook. It's an amazing radar. For me, it's the best radar in the game, just because you can detect anything from like 100 kilometers, basically anything. Even an F-16, which is a very small target. I know the F-14 has more range, but you don't need like 150 kilometers of range. With this missile, 80 kilometers is fine of being able to lock somebody. And yeah, it's just a very, very good aircraft. For the BVR, is the most amazing thing ever. For turning, it's a little bit worse than the MiG-29, I think, but still it's amazing. And you can take for BVR weapons, even though you do not have the ability to carry 4 ERs, only the Rs as well, together with the 2 ERs, but still, it is amazing. I love this aircraft. The climb, the acceleration, the speed, everything is amazing. The only thing that it's a little bit of a lack, it's the turning capability, but it is just amazing. I still prefer to fly the MiGs, but the Yak is amazing as well. Perfect aircraft. Then we go for the British. The British have some weird, funny things. So the Harrier GR7, I have to put it on not great, not terrible, just because, it's between these two again. For air to ground, it is great. It's amazing as well. To self-defense and stuff, it's an amazing aircraft. But I cannot compare it to an F-16, right? It's a little bit worse than these aircraft. I still think that it's even worse than the MLD, but still, they're quite there because they have this ability of doing air-to-ground fairly good. So you can use in a ground battle fairly, in a fairly good way, right? So it is an amazing aircraft, but it has its problems. It doesn't have BVR, doesn't have an afterburner, so you are kind of short-legged due to that. You don't have the ability to follow targets and get close to them. You kind of have to just find targets of opportunity because you don't have the speed to fight anything else. You just cannot get there, right? So it's an amazing thing, but it has these limitations that tends to be just okay. It's not a very most fun aircraft ever, right? Then we go for the Tornado IDS for the British, the GR1. Only good at one thing, still only good at ground attacking. It's limited, I guess, but I don't know. It's a fun aircraft, but it has its problems as well. I would even put it, I would put it on complete suffer even, because it has less power than the Asta. So it's not a lot less, but it's just to differentiate a little bit. It's good, kind of good at one thing, bombing and stuff, but these tornadoes are very hard to fly, so not the greatest thing ever, right? It's problematic. Then the Tornado F3. The Tornado F3 is one of the odd ones. I will put it on not great, not terrible. It is not a bad aircraft, okay? I have some gameplays on it. You can get a lot of kills, but you have to get people by surprise on the BVR, because everything else you cannot basically do. You're not fast enough to actually run away from targets or get to targets sometimes. You even lose to some MiG-21s in speed. But you have the radar, which is still the worst version of the F3. We might get the better versions. But the main problem is the Sky Flash, the Super Temp. It's alright. It can get kills. It's not a bad missile. But it has a limited range compared to the other ones. And you basically cannot turn, you just don't turn. You don't dogfight. Try to run, but most of the time if you're facing these aircraft, you're going to die. It's 1v1s, it's just, if you don't have the advantage of going ahead on in a specific way, that maybe you have the chance, but even those, they have better BVR missiles, and it's just a difficult aircraft to fly. I think it's a fun one. I love to fly it, but it is difficult. So you need to learn how to use it. And even then, you're going to die a lot sometimes. So yeah. Then we go for Japan. Japan has two aircraft. We have the EJ Kai and we have the F-16 AJ. I think the EJ Kai, you can put it on not great, not terrible as well. It has the same radar as the F-16s. It has 4 missiles, which is the only advantage over the other ones. But everything else is just the same in the weapons department. But you are still in an F4 that doesn't have the Agile Eagle package. So you don't turn very well as well. Not that the Agile Eagle changes too much. It is a limited aircraft in that sense. On the speed, it is very limited. The F4 is, it feels like a fast aircraft, but it really is not. It loses for most of the MiG-21s as well and stuff like that. So it is not the most incredible aircraft ever. Obviously, it's still a Phantom, but the missiles and the radar, it makes it up for it, and you can get kills with it, but it is limited in the performance of the aircraft, right? The F-16 AJ, I mean, I have to put it here. It is basically the same aircraft as the ADF, but it has the ability to carry air-to-ground as well. It is an amazing aircraft. I still think that the radar is limited. Same principle as I told you about the F-16 with the bigger maps, especially in the bigger maps. If it wasn't for the bigger maps, I would put it up here, these ADFs and MLUs and the AJ. But with the ADF, with the bigger maps, I think it's just all right. I mean, you can get a lot of kills, you can get aces, but if you go head-to-head against one of these in a high-altitude BVR fight, you will lose. So I think it is even better than these two because it has the air-to-ground of this and the BVR of these, so in one, like the MLU. And while we are talking about the MLU, same principle, nothing else to say, same radar yet, so nothing else to say too much. It is the same principle of aircraft. The Italian one as well, I mean, they're just the same aircraft, so yeah. Then we have for the Tornado IDS for the Italians, I think only good at one thing. They basically have the same engine now, so they're basically the same aircraft as the Asta. So thermals for bombing is alright, for everything else is kind of bad, of course, obviously, but if we get bigger maps, it would be better. Then we have the Mirage 2000C. So the Mirage 2000C, it's great, but there is a catch even on this. I think it's a top dog, but just because of its BR. If it was going to be added in the 11.7 or 12.0 BR, it would be down here. But at 11.3, man, you get a lot of down tiers. And the Super 530 at down tiers, man, against 10.3s, 10.7s, it's amazing. Yes, you only have 4 missiles, but the radar is one of the best radars in the game. It has around 100 kilometers of range, very fast radar detection, everything. Amazing turning. It's even hard to actually beat this thing with a MiG-29 and an F-16. So yeah, it's an amazing aircraft. I really love this thing, but mainly due to the BR of it right now. I think it's really OP in its BR. I get constantly 6 kills plus with this in that BR. It's just so easy to get a lot of kills. So I think it's alright, but if he gets a higher BR, it probably won't be that good because of the thrust weight of it, but still it's amazing. The Mirage 2000D, I would say that, I mean, I would probably put it at great, but just because it exchanges the BVR part of it, it is the same BR, but it has an amazing air-to-ground capabilities, and it still can defend itself. So the air-to-ground on this, with laser-guided missiles and bombs, and the performance of it can be very deadly in a ground battle. So yeah, it's great, but of course it lacks a little bit on the defense department just because of not having BVR. But it's not even a problem with it. So I would put it just here because against a fighter, it will lose a little bit, just like the MiG-27 would, right? So, but it is even better than that. I think it's better than 27K, in some aspects at least, because it has thermals and stuff. Then Swedish have one aircraft in tier 8, and it might be a little controversial right now, but hear me out. It's only good at one thing. I think it's an aircraft that, yes, you can get a lot of kills. I get a lot of kills with it, but it has a major problem. It has, on its BR, it has basically no ability to do BVR. So it is only good at dogfights. Everything else is bad in this aircraft. It's good in dogfights and basically with the 9Ls and getting people by surprise, right? So basically just it's like a big MiG-21 or a Draken, right? Draken or something like that. Because even though the Sky Flash can get a lot of kills, I mean, I would put it in here. Let me just put it here because it is a good aircraft. You can get a lot of kills, especially due to its BR. But the Sky Flash is just a really bad missile for BVR. It's not even a BVR missile technically. It's more of a dogfight missile, but still. It is, and even at lower ranges, I mean, even like an 8-kilometer shot, sometimes you will miss because it doesn't have the energy. The radar is almost completely blind, to be honest. It's hard to get detections from further than 50 kilometers. More likely than not, it will be around 40. So it is kind of blind, the radar. The missiles are pretty alright. The E9Ls are alright. Of course, now with the gun, having the gun lead, with not having the tracers, it's alright. But it's only kind of good at that, right? It's an aircraft that it depends on what BR you are facing. If I have like 6 kills, 7 kills, even I think an 8 kill game on this, but it tends to lack a little bit compared to every single thing that it's up here and some of the things that are here as well. I take a MiG-23 all day over this. All of these actually. Not the Harrier, not, because I'm not the biggest fan of the Harrier, but still, all of these aircraft I would take it before I take this. It's just a not very fun aircraft for me personally. Especially because the radar is really blind. Like, it's a really bad radar. But still, it will be fixed when we have the Gripen, and I think the Gripen will be up there on the top dogs, so we can wait for that, right? And then the last nation, the Israelis. So, the Kurnas 2000, this is an interesting aircraft actually. It is better than the EJ Kai, but I would put it in the same category of not great, not terrible. It is still an F4 after all. Everything else is basically the same right now. If it gets its real radar, maybe you will change. But right now, or maybe new missiles or anything like that. But right now, it has basically a copy-paste of the APG-66 of the other Raiders, 66. And it has basically the same missiles, AIM-9Ls and AIM-7Fs. So it's basically the same. It just turns a little bit better with the Agile Wiggle, which is fun. But everything else is the same. So yeah, even though it's a very good aircraft, it has the limitations of an F4. So there is not much that I can actually say along those lines. It's an amazing aircraft, very fun, but it's just an F4, right? The best F4 in the game, yes, but it is an F4 in a world of F-16s and MiG-29s, right? So yeah. And then we have the last aircraft, the Nets, same thing as the Block 10. It has the ability to do ground, but it doesn't have any type of BVR. And also, the radar is a little bit limited in the range department especially. So yeah, we will probably see some form of F-16C coming soonish for the Israelis. That would mean that it would be up there. But right now, it's all right. It's not bad. These aircraft are not bad. But they're not the most amazing thing ever right now, right? But anyway, this is it, guys. What do you think about my tier list? I think these are the top dogs, the best aircraft in the game. If you want, get one of these and you will get a lot of kills. The F-14 can be problematic when stock, but most of the aircraft are, right? So just be aware of that, okay? Anyway, let me know in the comments what are your top dogs that you think. And I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe and bye, guys. See you.